This Future Construct podcast episode is supported by Applied Software. Applied Software is on a mission to transform industry by empowering their clients and championing innovation with real-world expert consultants. So visit ASTI.com, it's ASTI.com, and please let them know that we here at Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Future Construct podcast. I'm your host, Amy Peck. Very excited for our guest today. We have Curtis Rodgers, who is a principal at Brick Mortar Ventures and also the founder of the Society for Construction Solutions. Welcome, Curtis.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for having me.
So you have a really fascinating background. So I'd like to dive in there first, maybe start with what you're doing now, but if you can give us a little bit of history, how you got here.
Sure, thank you. So my role as principal at Brick Mortar Ventures is, pretty much focused on investments and the success of early stage companies. So Brick Mortar Ventures was started about 6 years ago by Darren Bechtel, and I was the first hire about 5.5 years ago. And my responsibilities, include the deal flow, the evaluation of the investment opportunities. I sit on a few boards of our investments. And then, of course, we work with them through all the problems of product market fit, product management, help them fundraise. We're really hands-on, and we work with companies from like seed through Series A or Series B. And, that we even do like some spin-outs. So we did a spin-out from CSIRO, Australia's National Research Laboratory, as well as Shell TechWorks. So we work really early stage, sometimes with the origin of the company.
So I'm a little jealous about that. I saw that's in Sydney, Australia. Did you get to live there for a little bit?
I was looking at actually moving to Sydney, but I just travel there as needed. I've spent a lot of time in Sydney and Melbourne and Perth.
Yeah, one of my favorite places. So, in looking at some of the portfolio companies, and particularly ones where you are either on the board or a board observer, I'd love to, there's obviously clear through lines. If you can kind of talk a little bit about, the types of investments you're making, but maybe some of the portfolio companies themselves, because it's a really interesting group.
Sure. And I'll get a little bit more on my background, just to kind of put it all into context, because I think it also helps to understand like what's the scope. Because when you say like, construction technology, well, what market segment are you even talking about? So my background was pretty unique, as I got exposed to pretty much every market segment of construction. Actually, I come from an IBM family. And when I finished grad school and started as an engineer at Kiewit, I was really curious, what was the enterprise IT environment for Kiewit's operations. And, after a year, I had rotated through, being a foreman and a superintendent and operating equipment, doing a little bit of welding. And I was an engineer on a power plant project, doing structural concrete, and then an engineer on the DART Orange Line, so light rail from downtown Dallas to the airport, working on earthwork operations. But then I rotated through surveying and scheduling, so I had to experience a lot of different roles. And then for the next 5 years of my construction career, I was focused on new technology and process improvement. So Kiewit had started like a big initiative into digitization and kind of overhauling all the technology within Kiewit. And I was very fortunate to be one of the first 5 people chosen for this solutions team. So I worked with our, 4 of the districts, projects in the defense space, oil and gas, mining, industrials, energy. And, for 3 years at Kiewit, I was able to work with all these different project types at different stages of progress, different teaming agreements, mostly self-perform, and just working with them on defining the problems they were motivated to solve, and then seeking out the solutions to address that. So that could be, guidance solutions for drilling operations, looking for new materials to improve, concrete production, and then, lots of, digital solutions and there's a lot of, change management. How do you incorporate emerging technology into a really challenging industrial process with, zero patience for things that don't work. So the need for something to be successful was higher than, its impact. It was okay to get started with quick wins, things like that. And then after 4 years at Kiewit, I moved out to San Francisco to join the PlanGrid team. I was their largest customer at the time, and I was one of their earliest hires when they came out of Y Combinator. That's what brought me to San Francisco. And I worked for McCarthy Construction for 2 years, and McCarthy is the largest healthcare builder in North America. So I worked primarily with the California regions, NorCal and SoCal, and worked on a lot of really complex design build projects. Again, helping them to define problems they're motivated to solve, and then going out and seeking the solutions. And it was completely different at McCarthy because of, the abundance of solutions to work with and to pilot, and also being in San Francisco. And let's see, about 6.5 years ago, I was, working with a lot of entrepreneurs in the Bay Area and saw the opportunity to create the Society for Construction Solutions. And that brought together all of those, early technologists and construction entrepreneurs, and also some investors. And that's how I met Darren Bechtel, as he had invested in a number of entrepreneurs who are members of my nonprofit. And then we became buddies, and I actually pitched Darren an idea for a startup software platform, and I was politely interrupted and offered a job to come and join him and help get the brick and mortar brand up and going, and raise outside funding. So the way that we look at investment opportunities is by understanding what market segment they're active in, what problem they solve, and we're much more of a problem focused investor and kind of technology agnostic. So if you look at our portfolio, it can be kind of hard to see what theme it is other than just construction related, because we'll happily invest in robotics, material science, guidance technology, your SaaS platforms, your tech-enabled contractors, and we really try to understand what market segments that they address, and then what processes in each market segment, as it's completely different, like building a single-family residential home versus a hospital versus a power plant. The contract types are different or non-existent, and there's just all these different complexity drivers.
This episode of the Future Construct podcast is supported by the amazing team at Applied Software. They have solutions for any modern project. Applied Software is on a mission to transform industry by empowering their clients and being the champions of innovation with their real-world expert consultants. They have a comprehensive suite of solutions for AEC, MEP, and manufacturing with a singular focus to help you achieve higher performance. So with software, training, support, consulting, and custom development, Applied Software has you covered for all of your workflow needs. BIM Designs is proud to be a client and partner of Applied Software. So visit their website at asti.com, that's ASTI.com. And don't forget to tell them that we here at Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. Yeah, and you said something that's really interesting, and I think companies fall into the trap of, a mandate will come down and say, we need to be doing AI, or we need to be doing AR and VR. And, in my opinion, that's the kind of a backwards way of doing it. It's like, what problem are you trying to solve? And then how do you leverage technology? And, in looking at your portfolio, there's a lot of deep tech, and there's a lot of sort of combinations of technology. And again, I think that's where we're all headed. And I think the fact that you have such deep sort of hands-on expertise is going to be incredibly valuable for this venture firm. I kind of wish I had a recording of your pitch to Darren where he said, I'm going to take a pass on your company, but I really like you. So with some of the companies that you're working with now, can you give some examples of some successes you've had? Because you touched on this a little bit. It's really it's incredibly difficult to bring in technology to a construction workflow, and people have vastly different abilities in terms of their, tech knowledge and their, understanding, and certainly a lot of reticence to bring certain new technologies, into a construction site. So how are you able to combat that, and how do you find companies that have such deep tech expertise but really understand that user journey?
Sure. So, a lot of it is, for your question, it seems like, it's kind of like a process improvement solution for a contractor is that's relevant to what you're asking for, because we do invest in companies that compete for contracts with builders and things like that. So, yeah, I would point out probably Cumulus Digital Systems is a really interesting, call it case study in change management. It's also one of the many portfolio companies we're really proud of, and I sit on the board. And the origin story with that company, so Shell, which is a fantastic corporation, they worked with MIT's Draper Labs to basically seek out solutions for the problems they were motivated to solve as like an R&D facility in Cambridge in the Boston area. And that really morphed and evolved into Shell TechWorks. And so Shell TechWorks has a number of amazing, systems engineers and aerospace engineers and, all of these people from diverse backgrounds looking at Shell's problems with fresh eyes and a lot of experience in other very technical industries. And we developed a relationship with them, and then we were asked to lead a spin out of a software company, a technology company that they developed in-house at Shell. And what Cumulus Digital Systems does is it's a really quality management and learning management platform to eliminate mistakes in industrial operations. So that can be really important in oil and gas and chemicals and things like that. And the first kind of product that they had out of this overall platform worked with Bluetooth enabled torque wrenches to eliminate leaks on refineries. I actually have, this is always a good visual aid, but this is a very large torque wrench, and you can see, call it a smart torque wrench. And this was developed by Snap-on Tools, but other tool manufacturers make Bluetooth-enabled torque wrenches. And Cumulus saw this as an enabling technology and said, "Wow, we can get objective data from the field and incorporate that into the quality management processes." Well, you're also getting really good information about the performance of the operator of the tool or the equipment. So there's a whole learning management aspect too, and understanding the training and the performance, things like that. But you're not touching the time cards. You're not touching anything sensitive to this person and the relationship with the company. It's kind of very problem focused. And how good were you today at eliminating leaks on the facility, that type of thing. So they're building out the software platform to work with many applications, many scopes, but they're a great example of how a focused solution can be incorporated into a really complex industrial operation. The construction of an industrial facility or the maintenance of an industrial facility with something like that, like focused, it answers the question of like, well, what do you do and how does it benefit me? And it's not a company that says, oh, well, give us all your data and we'll send you a report, and then you can figure out how to incorporate that benefit into your business. With Cumulus, the best place to start is working with their smart torque wrench solution, and it's pretty easy to understand how important that is, going from paper-based collection of torque values to one where the human is in the loop but not actually capturing the data and digitizing the information so it's can't be lost. There's all kinds of paper deliverables that are misplaced, but the precision and the accuracy is what's really important to these more industrial projects. But of course, it's also relevant to data centers and hospitals, or any commercial project that has a significant MEP scope is going to need something like that. So it may have started in oil and gas with Shell, but Shell was a fantastic partner in the spin out, and Cumulus is still a very attractive investment. They haven't taken too much money. They haven't given away too many rights to Shell or to us or to anybody else. They're a very standalone, self-assured company and growing at a fantastic rate. I think they're just had a successful Series A, so I think they'll be raising a Series B here in the next year or two.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that you actually have a torque wrench. It's just back here. I'm going to need one of those. I need those for my wall. I see your Texas flag back there. I've actually been part of the recent Texodus. And so I just moved from the Bay Area.
Texas, nice. I haven't heard that before.
Yes. We're all descending upon this fine state, and I'm not sure they're super happy about it, but.
Yeah, I was born in Dallas and raised in Austin, and I remember going back to Austin really to host some friends and kind of show them around. And I had my California ID because I moved to San Francisco so many years ago, and I handed it to someone, and then he handed it back, said, "Enjoy your stay." So I wanted to explain, I'm from Austin. I'm not, just visiting or, trying to drive up the property values. But yeah, I got out of San Francisco back in July. I live in Santa Barbara now.
Oh, nice. That's a beautiful area. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm very happy to be here. I am going to change my license plates as soon as humanly possible and get a Texas driver, because I can tell you on the roads, you can tell that they know I'm from California and they're not super psyched I'm here. So I'm going to rectify that.
Yeah, different podcast to talk about how to fit in Austin.
I'd love it. Any advice you can give me of how to blend.
Yeah.
So I did watch a few videos as well, and I think just in hearing you talk, I see that your level of experience is so important too in terms of assessing what the problems are. And I think it's really interesting the way that this venture firm has been built. But I look at Holobuilder, for example, which is insanely cool, but also seemingly not that difficult to deploy in a construction environment. I think you interviewed somebody on the video on YouTube, and I highly recommend anyone listening take a look for it. But the woman who was managing it said, it took me just a couple minutes on my mobile device, and she's running the robot. Can you talk a little bit about how that company came to be?
Sure. So that's an interesting one, because I knew Holobuilder before I worked at Brick Mortar Ventures. So when I was at McCarthy Construction, I had worked through and completed a few process improvement campaigns, one for improved design management in the pre-construction process, and then another one to improve information management for the self-perform business units of McCarthy, primarily a parking structure business unit. And I was looking for the next scope to work on, because design management couldn't be more important for design build contracts. And pre-construction was kind of new to me, as back in McCarthy it was more estimating. There wasn't as much kind of design scope. And then that self-perform, it's one of the kind of project types where you can really make significant margin and you have significant risk. So once those were done, I kind of looking at, okay, well, I guess now we look at, I kind of called, maybe disrespectfully, babysitting, managing the subcontractors, like completely subcontracted operations where, general contractor has a number of engineers there who are documenting progress. And that's like the name of the game. The better we can document progress with the subcontractors as a partner and being willing to be documented, the better you can do project controls. So, like a fully subcontracted project is really like an exercise in project controls for the general contractor, and as well as the design management process, but as far as operations. And, I kind of looked at it afresh and started doing time studies on the engineers and the project teams and the project control staff, and see what their time was spent working on. And a lot of it revolved around photos, and photos that they had taken and are disorganized and hard to find, photos they wish they had, all kinds of duct tape together solutions for engineers to try to improve their own efficiency for managing imagery and things like that. And I said, okay, well, if we're really just doing project controls during this type of job, well, can we just document progress comprehensively and in a scalable way that'll be easy to repeat for each project? And so, well, why not laser scanning? We use laser scanning for these major kind of milestones in the project. This one job I was working with was taking an old tank assembly facility in Soma in San Francisco, just like an old kind of warehouse industrial part of town, and turning it into a headquarters for a number of the Bay Area authorities. So they cut the center of this concrete structure out, and where they were installing all glass interior panels. So you have this beautiful central area with staircases coming in and out. It was really a very cool project. And from the laser scanning, we found all these little issues. We could now start to count things, not with a clipboard walking around, but by really looking at all of the information that was gathered. And yeah, why can't we laser scan? Well, when you start to quantify the amount of man hours and time and everything in doing data collection using laser scanning, even with robots, it's still very difficult to scale. And it doesn't, of course, work for all projects. Not all projects are installing, custom-made glass for, each level of the project. So it's kind of overkill. And so I was like, okay, well, what else is there out there? And now I felt that I really understood a problem, and now, kind of understood at least one solution that I knew would work, but turns out isn't scalable. Well, what else is out there? So you create what's the spectrum of reality capture? And if I have a smartphone with a camera over here, and I've got, LiDAR millimeter level accuracy, what's in the middle? And started looking at structured light sensors, like Matterport. There were a number of other solutions out there, which are structured light sensors where it sends out infrared, light is kind of like a cast out in front of you. And then it's using computer vision with kind of those, a bit of known information with unknown information, and makes a nice point cloud, but creates a huge file size, and also had kind of like a long duration of capture. Well, a ball of GoPros back in the day, what used to be the way that you could capture spherical videos and spherical imagery. And so, okay, well, can we produce spherical images or spherical video in a scalable way? Because the speed of capture, is really fast, and not every project is going to need millimeter accuracy. So it might be a better place to start is just with imagery. We don't want to deal with the point clouds of structured light sensors. We don't want to deal with the clouds and the expense of laser scanning. So we started looking at photospheres, and it just so happened that Ricoh out of Japan had released a new spherical camera that didn't have very good resolution, didn't have very good low light performance, but was the first product to ever allow you just with the click of a button, capture a spherical photo, and then plug it into your computer. And now I've got a spherical JPEG that I can easily make use of. And we started putting those on PDF plans and kind of building our own floor plan with links to photospheres. Some projects were using iPads on a tripod to try to capture not a full photosphere, but it's basically a big panorama. And that was starting to get traction. But on that, the Ricoh Theta forum for developers, as I was searching for, okay, where's a software platform for managing all of these photospheres, we met Holobuilder. And Holobuilder was really a product out of BitStars in Aachen, Germany. And Mustafa Akbari and his team did a fantastic job of saying, okay, well, we've got our BitStars kind of software development company in Aachen, Germany. It's basically an informal relationship with RWTH Aachen University, which is like a combination of MIT and Colorado School of Mines for Germany. It's really like an absolutely outstanding university. they had developed Holobuilder to start working with reality capture information for the Google Tango and structured light sensors and everything, but it worked really well for photospheres as well. And they said, okay, let's focus the entire effort of the company on this one product. And then Mo decided he was going to move to San Francisco. And yeah, it was just kind of like a perfect coincidence that I was trying to solve this problem of organizing photospheres. Mustafa and the Holobuilder team had built this platform for organizing photospheres, hadn't chosen an industry yet. And then we met in San Francisco and concluded, yes, construction is a great industry to focus on. And then I met Darren. Darren hired me and became one of our earliest investments as a team of Darren and I. So Darren's capital, and I was really interested in Holobuilder as a potential investment. I worked very closely with the team, and now they're generating substantial revenue and doing really well. And something to attribute to their success is that ease of understanding like the problem it solves. When you show up to a project and you show them this little device, I think I might have one.
Torque wrench, theta, they're all right here.
Yeah, I kept referencing it, but I don't. All my toys are not far away, and this is actually the first one that I ever bought. This was very, very early one, but capable of taking spherical cameras. There's a Snapdragon processor in there, and it's easy to explain to very busy project teams that this can take a lot of photos very quickly, and we just came for your photos. That's it. And the interface and how you interact with the information is also really easy. You don't have to fly around in 3D software. You can open up a mobile browser on your phone. It's really easy to access, easy to understand, affordable price. Like that really fit the bill. And then they've added on a lot of really great features like annotations, and that being in like a master log for the project, and like multi-tiered administration, things that construction engineers understand the utility of, because I've got this whole project scope and I want to make annotations, but I don't want to have to keep a spreadsheet of all my comments over the drawings or the photos and all these things. And Holobuilder allows you to have that master markup list for the project, so I can easily manage those issues that I identify in the field to completion. So it's kind of like a project controls platform where photospheres and imagery are, how all the information is structured. It's almost like a GIS system. And then because it's a photo, it inherently has context like it would in a GIS system where it's all location based. And then, features like multi-tiered administration. Now a large company, especially the higher up decision makers, can see how they can now monitor multiple projects from a centralized office. And we saw that as something that was contributing to a bigger trend happening in construction, which was less project presence, less headcount on the project. We would typically look at like a foreman to engineer ratio. And so those types of ratios going down, and I guess more foremen to engineers, so that ratio would go up, but more centralized, project management, administration, scheduling, things like that. So that helped us to build conviction with the investment, and also just knowing that this is a fact. This device is going to be significant to construction because they all want to eliminate their overhead, and this is a very easy to understand solution to reduce overhead.
So, looking at a lot of these solutions, I'm already seeing ways that you can take that same data and kind of repurpose it either, sort of in training or in remote technical assistance or, some other applications. How are you thinking about that in terms of scale? Some of the companies you're working with or solutions that you've seen out there where then all of this data that you're collecting has other kind of uses and use cases?
Yeah, I would point out probably Veerum, Veerum, out of Calgary, Alberta. And they're in the reality capture space as well. But later after we had made the investment in Holobuilder, we were like, okay, well, some project types do need laser scanning, and photospheres might be beneficial, but for like oil and gas, mining, millimeter precision is the name of the game, and Virum and Calgary, as like just a place, I call it like a center of influence. Calgary is a center of influence for survey engineering and survey technology. So Virum is our portfolio company that's really a platform for survey data, but you could describe that as point clouds. Very precise measurements in the field, collected, qualified. Is this data accurate? Okay, let it into the Virum system. Now I can get access to all my design files, all the point clouds, all the information for this industrial facility, all millimeter accurate, and QC, we would call it, quality control on the accuracy of the data coming into the system. It's different than Holobuilder. It has some similarities, but it's in different market segments. Holobuilder does have clients in the oil and gas, the industrial space, but they would probably reference a photosphere in Holobuilder to better understand, okay, what's going on in this complex point cloud? It's kind of different tools in the toolbox. And how that data is kind of used in a unique way. Holobuilder is oftentimes used by the contractor, subcontractors, maybe the client. But with Virum, it's almost exclusively the client. So I'm an asset operator. I've got a hydroelectric turbine, or I've got some type of big industrial project in a really remote place, very hard to access. And I spend a lot of money going and doing laser scans to understand what I own, what's going on. We've got a project underway. What's being installed. It's all being installed, correctly. And there's also a lot of modular construction in those really remote jobs up in northern Canada. And Virum can be used to also, put projects out for bid. So, you've got the construction phase and the maintenance phase where you're using Virum to manage progress and understand quality control from a dimensional accuracy standpoint. Well, the next time you need to go and find a contractor to do a major maintenance event or a capital improvement project, then you can use the Virum platform to, identify what areas you want to put into the RFP and, put out for bid. So all the data that's used for operations and maintenance is, absolutely valuable for running like a digital bid process, because I can try to get some drawings, put that into the package to request the proposals, and then of course a narrative to describe the scope of work. But instead of drawings and a narrative, if I've got real representative data of what all the contractors in that location have done previously, point clouds of what are the existing conditions, and in that same platform all the CAD files, and then all of that linked together in a cloud interface, it really changes how the bid process works when you have such an abundance of very accurate data, and done by people at a company who know what survey engineering is. So it works right into the workflows of the engineers and the estimators pursuing the project.
Yeah, and that's a critical component of it as well. So we're kind of coming to the end of our time, and I there's always a question I ask all of our guests about the future and kind of projecting themselves in the future. This is much more on a personal level. So if you could project yourself, 20, 25 years into the future, and you could have, any gadget at all that would make your life better or make you happy, what would it be and what would it do?
Sure. So 20, 25 years from now, I think the true driverless car, and completely like sleep in it and show up somewhere else. I mean, I've traveled like a maniac for the last decade of my life, and it would be really an amazing convenience if my experience, like being on a plane and being able to sleep on the way to a destination. I remember in Texas driving like 13 hours to get out to Pantex and, visit the substations and things like that. And that's a lot of driving. You got to accommodate time for sleep. It takes forever. And be the same thing for keeping in touch with family and friends and things like that. It would just make the world a smaller place if you could sleep, in transit and driving. And a lot of times I'd rather drive than fly. So I think that was something I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah, good. Me too. I just drove from San Francisco to Austin, and man, Texas is a big state. I went through 3 states in the same amount of time it took me just to get from, El Paso to Austin. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. Thank you, Amy.